first session of summer school, we weren't all together. Obviously, the international guys weren't there. There was a lot going on worldwide about that, but that's kind of been cleared up, so those guys are here. And then obviously with Michael being away at USA Basketball. But to have everybody here now and then to have Ollie's situation all cleared up, ever since second session of summer school started and Michael got back from USA Basketball, everybody's been here, which has been great.
You talked last year, Pat, about how quickly that group bonded. Have you seen any indication of how it's going to go this year? I know it's a short time, but.
Yeah, we're very particular in who we recruit, not just in athleticism and length and basketball skill, but the character piece is very, very important. And it's much easier to put together a team that's centered on that power of the unit, which is based on love, with guys that's their true nature. That's who they are at their core. So I loved how the guys have come together, how chemistry's starting to come together. And like I said, they've all only been together now for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. But it's a really good group.
Pat, speaking of the international guys, what sort of vibe or dynamic do they provide to the team as opposed to what would be different to maybe a domestic prospect?
They're not from this country. You know, they speak different languages. Obviously, you know, you look at Mo's a young kid. His best basketball's ahead of him. He's got unbelievable potential. But then you look at our other international guys, and they're grown men. You know, obviously, Ali Khalifa's been in college basketball for a long time. But with Sananda and with Zoo, those guys have been played professionally for multiple years. They come in as freshmen, but, you know, I say they're different than most freshmen. They're hairy chest freshmen, as I like to say, grown men. You know, and just competing at such a high level against grown men, you know, puts them way ahead of the curve in terms of the adjustment. 22-year-old freshman is unique to college basketball, but not going to be unique moving forward. It's going to be more of that with college basketball.
Coach, how has it been different for you this year with a year in the ACC, turnover in team? Are there any differences in how you have approached it this year, and what may be different regarding this squad versus last year's squad?
Approaching it different, you know, the biggest difference is my life is kind of settled. Last year, during this time, there was chaos going on. You know, we hadn't moved yet. The family wasn't up here yet. We're still in the process of buying houses. I'm living in an apartment, really living in my office. But just to have that part of my life kind of in order and settled, it's been a little bit different of an off season. I feel like I have my bearings about me a little bit better. But as far as doing something different, I mean, every team is different. I've said it before. It's like Forrest Gump said. It's like a box of chocolates every year, you know. And part of this summer, with all teams around the country, is figuring out their team. You know, it's whether it's on the floor, off the floor, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. You have a sense in recruiting as to, you know, your vision of how those pieces are all going to fit together and work. But until they actually get here, they start interacting, they start competing together, they play every day, you learn more about your team as you go into the fall.
What have you figured out so far? You touched on a little bit in that first question I asked, but anything in this quick section of time that you figured out?
Well, you know, the things we always look for on the front end, and I usually feel good that what we look for on the front end is who they're going to be. You know, we always talk about ABC. That's the old Skip Prosser academics basketball character, guys that are going to take care of their business off the floor, guys that are passionate about hoop, and guys that are high character, that are about others. And I see that from these guys every single day. And then it's what we look for, and I can tell you through whether it's 5 weeks that guys have been here, 5.5 weeks, or just 2, you know, we look for guys that are tough. And we got a team with a bunch of tough dudes, competitors, guys that compete every day. I would say check on both of those. Basketball IQ. We look for guys with high basketball IQ that like to talk the game, that think the game. We have a team full of guys like that. And then people that make people around them better. So when you ask me what I've seen, that's what we saw on the front end in the recruiting process. And obviously we have a core group of guys returning, so I already knew what the back of their bubblegum card looked like. But with all the new guys, it's all those things that we hope for and more.
Did you guys get together and watch Michael playing for Team USA? And was that kind of like a bonus bonding experience to do that? And also your impressions of him against that kind of competition?
Yeah, we didn't get together and as a group watch it, but, everybody was locked in and engaged. Unbelievable opportunity for him to represent his country, to play with USA across your chest. Few people get to do that, and that is one of the highest honors in sports. And obviously, they won a gold medal. I give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit. I thought he did a phenomenal job with that team. And not only the job he did with that team, but, the sacrifice that he made and Micah Shrewberry made and Grant McCaslin made, and then even the guys that were at training camp that weren't part of the coaching staff. I know Mark Pope was on that. I think Dusty May. There were a couple other guys I'm not remembering. But think about how important the summer is to build your team in this new age. And those guys spent multiple weeks, 3 weeks, almost a month away from their team, dedicated to those guys winning a gold medal and representing their country. I thought that was awesome. And I thought Michael was sensational. You guys all watched it. He didn't get MVP, but he sure could have. And the thing that's great about him is he didn't give a crap about the MVP. He gave a crap about the gold medal. But everybody that watched that knew how special he was during that tournament.
Last year, everybody was new to the place, to each other. This year, you do have several guys who have been through a year. Have they made things easier and helped bring in the other guys, the new guys?
No doubt. That core group of guys are returning. Last year we had a little bit of that with Rain and with James and with Kobe. They were all with us at Charleston, so they spoke my language already, knew our culture, and they can help those other guys along. And obviously we have more guys this year with the core group returning. And it's always good to have that veteran leadership, to have those guys that have been through it, that know how we rock, that know how we practice, know our terminology, and then they can help the other guys. That's been very, very helpful.
How's Casem Prior look? How's the rehab coming along? How does it seem to you?
Yeah, great. From a medical standpoint, he's on pace and probably even ahead of schedule. You'd have to talk to Katie about that, but typically that's a 9 to 12 month thing, and he's exactly where he needs to be. I always acknowledge Kate the Great. You saw the article a couple weeks ago in the paper about her. She's special, and she's doing an unbelievable job with him, and he's busting his tail.
How much do you think that the TBT, since we're almost there, how much do you think that the TBT gave your squad momentum heading into the early part of the season?
It was awesome. We're looking forward to it this year. I know, I don't know what exactly Luke's title is, but he's kind of like the what is he, the general manager? He's like, putting the team together. And last year it was unbelievable. Everybody talked about the passion of our fan base. When I got the job, and you felt it at the press conference, you just feel it around town. This is one of the most special sports towns in the country, but that TBT was the eye-opener for me. What did they have in one of those games? 15,000, 14,000. I don't remember what it was, but it broke the all-time record in the history. And our guys felt that too. I remember our guys going over there and everybody pumping them up. I remember Kenai Roos, doing the CARDS chant, and just to see how the town got behind that TBT team. And let's do the same thing this year. A lot of these guys, all these guys are sacrificing, right? They all have professional jobs. They all have they're professional players, and they're coming here to do something really cool. And make no mistake, a big reason these guys are doing it. I know a big thing was with Trez, whether Trez was going to play or not, and he made that decision to come here and play. And I'm using him as an example because he's playing in the Big Three. I think he has a game like on, I don't know what it is, Saturday, and he's got to be here for the game. And, he decided to do this, and I saw him yesterday, and it was great to see him. Gosh darn, is he long. He's got like a 7'5" wingspan. He looks like a raptor, and one of the toughest players I've ever watched play. I guarantee a big reason he did that is because of this town, what Louisville means to him. So, Card Nation, I'm giving a big shout out to those guys. Like, let's get out there, let's be loud, let's give them a huge 6-man over there at Fame Freedom Hall.
Pat, what
Where
is
it's at, right? Yeah. Just making sure.
we saw the video with Ollie when you were able to share the news, with him, the good news. What does he mean to this team moving forward, do you think, and how special kind of was it after kind of what he went through for a month or so?
It was awesome. That was a really, really cool moment. Ollie's such a special kid. All of you guys that have got to know him, and maybe now that he's eligible and he's playing this year, you'll get to know him more. I think he's coming in for media time. He just has a wonderful heart, and I don't think people give him the credit that's due to him of the job he did with last year's team. Even though he wasn't on the floor, man, he was a coach. He was an extension of me. He was like the Bigs whisperer, and he was helping James Scott and helping, those other guys, and unbelievable in the locker room. He's just about what we're about. And he's been through so much adversity with, the injury situation, and then, the scare of possibly not being eligible and not being able to play college basketball again, and just how it wore on him and the stress. And our team rallied around him. They picked him up. They gave him courage every day to just keep fighting. And then at that moment, it was really cool. We had all the, Josh and Allen and Lottie and Dudas and I could go on and on. Everybody was out in the hall, and I was supposed to bring them all in and then do the announcement and then have this big celebration. And I forgot they were out there. So after we did it, Josh came in and goes, "Yeah, man, thanks, appreciate it." But I heard it was cool. But no, that was awesome. I'm so happy for Ollie. And then on the floor, come on, man, he's one of the most skilled big guys in the country. I think he's one of the top 5 passing bigs in the world, and gives us a very, very dangerous weapon.
Chucky made a post on social media this summer saying something to the effect of Kobe Rogers is going to surprise people this year just because he spent the season sitting out, obviously getting healthy from that injury. What can you expect from his game? That's something that maybe fans haven't seen since he was with you at Charleston, but has he shown you even more growth, with that year being able to take off and get healthy, and just kind of what are your expectations for him
Kobe's
heading into this
having
year?
an unbelievable offseason. First of all, he's fully healthy, right? So not this NCAA tournament, last NCAA tournament's when he did his ACL, so whatever that is, a year and a half out. He's quicker, stronger, more athletic than he's ever been. Last summer was all rehab. Wasn't cleared to practice until whatever it was, early February. And, Kobe represents everything we want our program to be about. If the ball's bouncing, you open the door in the Kieber Center, Kobe Rogers is in there. And we got a program full of guys like that. That's being hoop dudes is what we celebrate all the time. But he's playing as well as he ever had in his career. He's a phenomenal leader, and we're relying on Kobe big time this year to be really, really good for us.
Coach, I know you can't talk about specific people, but are you possibly looking to add any other members to the squad, maybe in the front court? If any that fit your criteria are available.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, for this year, our roster's set. You never say never. You never know what's going to happen, but where our roster is where it's going to be, and we're pumped up about it.
And
Coach,
no matter who
what
you
are
go
your-
with as a starting lineup, you're gonna have multiple guys who've started who can't start here. How do you keep this many guys happy?
That's the
And manage
case
that.
with every team every single year. Everybody wants to start. Everybody wants to play. That's if you have guys on your roster, and I'm talking every NBA team, every college team. If you have guys on your team that don't want to play more minutes, don't want to start, don't want a bigger role, then they're not competitors. You want guys that are that way. I think one of the strengths of our team is our depth. We talk all the time about the power of the unit. We thought last year the strength of our team was our depth, and then you had injury, and you had injury, and you injury, and then we get down to the NCAA tournament, and where the crap is everybody? So the strength of our team is strength in numbers, and we got a locker room and a program full of guys that are 2 feet in on winning and being a championship caliber program. And all those things will play itself out, right? Like we talk about competing every day in practice. We think we have some of the most competitive practices in the country, and that's where roles are defined, and that's where minutes are starting to be divvied up, and that process will go all through the fall into the first game. But I think everybody's probably saying right now this time of year, depth is our strength. I really believe we have one of the deepest teams in the country, and it'll be a major weapon for us.
Pat,
Coach.
what is your thoughts on playing Kentucky so early in the season, the earliest the Battle of Bluegrass has ever been played?
Yeah, scheduling's hard. It's like putting a square peg in a round hole sometimes, and when you're setting up a date with a program, they have dates, you have dates that work, and you're going back and forth, and the one that we were able to land on was that one. That's just the way it goes.
Coach, speaking of schedule, last year you blamed Josh for scheduling Tennessee early on, which was a turning point for you. This year's schedule, you've multiplied it, and my question is, are you going to take some ownership for the non-conference schedule this year?
Am I going to take credit for it? Is that what you said, or?
Just some of the ownership.
Sure. I have very, very smart people around me, and I lean greatly in scheduling on Josh and Brian Cloman, and it's kind of a team effort in putting it together. Look, the way the season ended last year, and we got an 8 seed, it is what it is. And, I've said this before in some interviews. After the season, you start trying to figure out why, and you're calling the scheduling gurus, and then in the ACC head coaches meetings, like everybody's talking about the metrics and what you look at, and how you can build your schedule based on this metric and this metric, this metric. At the end of the day, what Bubba Cunningham told me, who was the chair of the NCAA tournament selection committee, was they're human beings in a room, and they're all going to decide what they're going to decide. That person might like the Ken Paul metric, that guy might like the net, that guy might just do the eye test, that guy might do that. They're human beings, and they're not held to a structured standard of selection. So what I do want to do is make sure that when we get there and the selection committee is looking at us, they know one thing: Louisville didn't duck the smoke. They didn't duck the smoke. So that was our approach this year. And how it all plays out, I don't know. Coach Prosser, my mentor, like he was in my office right now, we were talking scheduling, he'd probably hit me upside the head and go, "What the crap are you doing?" And maybe he's right, but we're not ducking the smoke. We're not. And when it gets to that point with the committee and they're looking at the seed of Louisville, it's not going to be like the caliber of teams they played weren't right. Like, we ain't dealing with that. You can't sharpen your teeth eating oatmeal, and whether it ends up being the best strategy in the world, I don't know, but that's what we decided. Bring it.
Pat, I was listening to a sports talk radio show this morning, and the guy on there says, "I've already made my reservations for Indianapolis in the Final Four, expecting Louisville to be there." How do you temper high expectations like that? And I know you probably don't even mention the Final Four this time of year to your guys.
How do I temper that personally, or how do I temper it with my team?
Team. And personally, too.
This is going to get boring because I always say this stuff over and over and over again. It's that weightlifting session now. And then it's the half team group that we have at 1:30. And then it'll be the next half team group that we have at 2:30. And then tomorrow it'll be the team session. And then that's it. That's it. I'm not worried about whatever you said, people making reservations at hotels for games down there. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about excellence today. That's it.
Pat, you had such success at Charleston and at Winthrop. You came here. Last year was one thing, but when you put it a whole season like you did last year, is it different when you're out recruiting the next class because you have something to prove here at Louisville?
Do I feel it's different out there?
Do you feel like you had a lot of traction last year, but do you feel like you're getting in with more better players than you did maybe last year?
You'd have to ask people out there on the outside, but I mean, I would think with the success we've had, it gives us some credibility to say like, okay, these guys know what they're doing a little bit, I like to think that's the case.
Coach, you got Kansas in the exhibition season. How did that come along, and how much of an advantage is it playing a program like that in the exhibition season?
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's an exhibition game. It doesn't count on your record or anything like that, but as I mentioned, this is one of the best sports towns in the country. And you guys are media members, but you're also part of this community. Does that get you pretty fired up for an October game against Kansas at the Yum? What I'm hoping for is about 20,000 people. Pretty cool. Pretty cool way to start the season, I would think, not only here in town, but around nationally. Is it on television yet or anything? We don't know that yet. Should be. Be pretty cool. I don't know. Last year we had 2 exhibition games against non-Division ones, and then you look at, obviously, went into the Tennessee game, and I've said it many times, we got literally and figuratively punched in the mouth. And, when we went down to the Bahamas in the summer, as I told you, one of the guys that took my bags at the hotel was in the starting lineup with the one team we played that evening. So, like to think Coach Sells' teams and the Kansas Jayhawks are going to be a little bit better of a test early on to get us ready.
How can you talk a little bit about Sananda and you talked about him? He's a grown man. He's been playing, against grown men. What have you seen since you've got him here? And I guess was it a different recruiting process when you recruit somebody internationally and you really don't ever see him, right?
Yeah. Sananda is he's a pro. He's a pro. He's a grizzlied veteran. Like, he's played in that German pro league, just like the Greek pro league that Zoo played in, are some of the top pro leagues in the world. And you look at the venues they play in, the atmospheres, the caliber of competition, just to come in with that type of experience. But then, he's big. He's got 7'4" wingspan. He's got great hands. He's a very, very smart player. You asked about some things like that I've noticed early on with the team, and you're talking about Sananda, but I would say for Zoo as well in terms of our 2 incoming bigs. They're both phenomenal in pick and roll coverage. Like, part of it is they've been coached at a really high level, but their ability to defend the pick and roll. Both as switch defenders. He's 6'11", but can really move his feet and guard a guard on a switch, but also in his coverages as well. He's a stoic individual. He's not the most vocal guy in the world. Brian Cloman jokes all the time. He was like, and I don't want to use a generality about Germans in general, but he was just like, sometimes they don't know when you're joking. And I'm always joking, like when I see these guys off the floor, and I forgot Chloe told me that, and I use some of my best zingers, my best one-liners that are guaranteed to get a laugh, and he just stared at me. I was like, dang. But no, we're really excited. He's doing a great job.
The roster this year lists a Kanai at 6'10", up from 6'8". I'm just wondering, could you speak to his growth physically, and then also just on what you're expecting from him making that leap from freshman to sophomore year?
Yeah, we were surprised when we measured him that he'd grown a little bit. I don't know exactly how much it was, but when he came back, we were all like, gosh, he looks a little taller. And Eli measured him, and he had grown an inch or something like that. So, and then obviously the job Eli does in the weight room, he's going to continue to put on muscle and mass and stuff like that. And I'm super, super high on Kanai. You can see his growth. He's become more and more of a gym guy. He's always been a gym guy. He's in the gym, but he's got that look about him where he's consumed. And he obviously he always plays with a ridiculous motor, pursues the glass. He's got great length, great defensive instincts. And then, you know, his offensive game is evolving as well. He's working on his three constantly, you know, keeping his game simple on the offensive end, executing actions, things like that. He just got a firm understanding of who he is and who we are and how he fits into that. And you can see that, you know, he's more comfortable this offseason versus last.
Is Conwell a guy who can get you a bucket whenever you need? I mean, you need guys like that, and he's done it at the highest level, really.
We got a bunch of guys like that, which is good. But Ryan can flat score the ball. You know, he's an elite three-point shooter. He's one of those modern players that are effective in the highest percentage shots in the game. He's really good at the rim. He's really good from three. He can generate free throws, and he makes free throws. Like, you know, he understands. You know, he played for Josh Ertz, played for Sean Miller. And Josh's system's probably a little bit more similar to ours. And like when I talked to Josh about Ryan, he just came out of his shoes, just like Sean Miller did. Like phenomenal kid. And I just saw Sean the other day, and Sean goes, you know, I said, how's Ryan doing? And I said, man, he's great. Phenomenal kid. And he goes, you know what? It doesn't change. Like when things get down, when things get bad, like he doesn't change. But going back to Josh's system, like Josh told me, like he knows where his bread is buttered, at the rim, from three, and getting to the line. And great leader. Really excited about Ryan.
Can you speak to seeing your guys get a shot at the NBA and how your system prepares guys for the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you know, you look at how Terrence Edwards' game was unleashed. You look at Chucky Hepburn, how his game was unleashed. And, you know, you look at Rain, you know, Rain even going to a higher level here and better players around him, obviously his game went up. You look at, I like to think a big part of it is that we just inject so much confidence into our guys. You know, like I for instance, using Chucky as an example, like Chucky was playing a little tentative early last year, like in the preseason and things like that. And, you know, he put a text or a tweet or a text that I sent him early in the season. He put it out on social media, and like I just told him, you go play with the most unbridled confidence you've ever played in your life. You go hoop. Obviously, the standards are to play with unbelievable toughness and intensity and guard with every fiber of your being. But from the offensive end, man, you go have fun and you hoop. And the fact that we play with such pace, we play one of the most modern styles in college basketball from an offensive standpoint, and our guys flourish.
What's been your take so far on this new system of sharing revenue with athletes directly? I mean, you obviously didn't have to do the complete overhaul of a roster that you did last year, but just what's that been like navigating the space now that players are getting paid directly from the school?
Yeah, I mean, it's good that the settlement is finally, you know, it's done. Right now, we for so much there was speculation. Will it? Won't it? Will it? Won't it? Will it get approved? And then there was all this other stuff. Just the fact that it's done, and we have some parameters, we have guidelines. We've pressed the go button, and you know, obviously outside the settlement, there's true NIL as well, and it'll just be really interesting. And I think there's a collective want-to in college sports right now to try to make this work. Change is inevitable, and this is one of the most seismic shifts in the history of college basketball the last couple years, both with the transfer portal and with NIL, and this new change is, but, you know, you like that there's some structure now, and I think everybody's committed to make this work.
How big was it to get Javon back for another year for this team?
Huge. Huge. Javon embodies, I say this a lot, but he truly embodies what we're about. You know, he's as committed to his game and his body and his mind and our system and his teammates as anybody I've ever coached. We talk about wanting the smoke in scheduling. Javon wants the smoke in the biggest games and the biggest moments. Like, he doesn't blink. I think back to like that Clemson game in the ACC tournament, and it was the closest thing to football that I've ever seen on the basketball court. Like, it was as nasty, knockdown, drag out, prize fight, really any game I've ever coached. And like, he was in every scrum. He was competing for every ball, whether it was on the floor or up in the air. And he comes to the sideline, and he's playing a cajillion minutes because our rotations were really small with rain being out and things like that. And he just never gets tired, ever. And he sets the tone every day with his work ethic. He's always the guy, one of those guys that are the first one there and the last one to leave. And he's one of those guys that's around the clock being about the right things. His sleep, his nutrition, his recovery, he is as regimented as anybody and really sets a great example. So we're unbelievably blessed to have him back.
Along those lines, where do you see his game going in year 2, and what does that ceiling look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really continued to go like this last year. I mean, you could see we did a lot of unique things with Javon, especially as the season progressed. We not only used him in actions as a pick-and-roll screener, we would put the ball in his hands to create kind of inverted pick-and-rolls where you have to make tough decisions when a guard or a shooter's defender is setting the pick and roll on him, and he's a mismatch problem because if you switch, he can turn his hips, and he's a very effective power post player. And you know, if you try to leave your big on him, he's good at taking him off the bounce. So, you know, I feel really comfortable with Javon grabbing the rebound, pushing the break, initiating our fast break without having to outlet to a point guard. He's really grown in a lot of ways.
Pat, you mentioned how Prior's ahead of schedule or maybe like on schedule with that 9 to 12 month time frame. When do you kind of expect him to potentially get cleared to resume practice activities, and do you think he's going to be available to start the season?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. That's the medical people. That would be Katie and the doctor. I do know typically around the 9-month mark is usually when you start to get, you know, start that, whatever they call that progression toward, progression to full contact. So from what we heard from the last doctor's appointment, he's on schedule, maybe even a little bit ahead of schedule. You know, and we're hoping, you know, sometimes in the preseason he can practice before